thank you very much for the 4 speakers for this 4th session. I am now calling again Hervé Le Bouler, Peter Hajek, and Iris Roncé for a round of questions. Yeah.
Good morning. I have a question for the first speakers about the IKS model. I was wondering if you consider that the niche can actually evolve, because if you consider that trees die and then the next generation may be different than the parent generation, perhaps then the niche can evolve. Do you agree with this, and can the model consider this?
Thank you, Bruno, for this question. This is not a surprise. You say what say Myriam Legay. She say, out of the niche, no future. It's a punk situation. For me, it's impossible to give an answer to this issue. It's a hope, but as we don't know where are the limits of the niche, we are unable to decide if these limits move. But it's probably a genetician approach to have an answer to this question and to look what are the diversity and the response of new babies oaks and babies of old trees. But have you an answer to this question? Because you are the genetician and not the genetician. I think you have no answer of this. Have you answer?
Yeah, I think the niche evolves, and I think genetic tests show that species are not uniform. They are made of different lineages which have different adaptation potentials. And so when you have a mean value for a niche, you somehow blur the effect of local adaptation that actually can be very useful, I think, as an adaptation tool for forestry. So yeah, I think it does evolve.
Yes, it's Antoine Crémer approach. For me, the question is the speed of adaptation. Will it be sufficient to have an answer to the speed of climate change? But for me, it's really a hope, but we will see in the future.
Okay, I think we have another question over there.
Yes, thank you. I'm Kaganga John from Uganda. I have been inspired with the model known as the IKS to all French forests. And I would like to ask that is it easy to be applicable to the developing countries? Because I'm here representing the developing countries. Then two, mostly it was mentioning about public forests. I don't know how the management in particular with the French forests, but in Africa or in Uganda, most of the forests are on private land. How do you deal with private forests?
For the model, it's a world model. I use it, I speak of IKS model with a very, very simple model, perhaps too simple. But I use it in Morocco about local species, and but we didn't use it deeply. But I think it's possible to use it, and I have no answer. There are no differences between public forests, private forests. In front of climate change, it's the same misery.
Okay, so we have quite a few questions. We have one over there. Yeah.
Okay, hello. Yasmin from Austria. Vienna. I have a question. You talked a lot, I think each of you, about different species. Did you have a look at the variabilities within the species? Because we discuss if you can make these climate effects on species level, or if you have to look at where the actual species come from.
Okay, let me try to answer this. Well, within our monocultures, we exclusively focused on within species variation, and there we observed that beside the fact that some species performed better, others performed less in terms of biomass increment. For example, infestation with pests was different.
So there was no view at the origin if it is a Pinus sylvestris from a dry place or from a wetter place or so, from the genetic material or from the adaptation to certain circumstances?
The intention of the experiment was not to test for, or originally the experiment was not laid out for testing whether some species are better adapted to drought or not. The species come from or originate from North America and Northern Europe, and they were adapted to their local environment and then brought together in Freiburg for this plantation or for this experiment. So we have no information on the genetic background specifically, so which species is better or less prepared for drought or survive droughts.
About Pinus sylvestris, natural area is from Kamchatka to South Spain, and in our model we use only the species level approach, but certainly there is a provenance model approach. I would like to answer about the precedent question. ICAE's model is a free, open model, and there is no problem to use it for everyone want to use it.
Okay, I think we had another question over there.
Hello, thank you for the talks. And just another question for Peter Hajek, maybe connected to the previous question. How do you can comment this, let's say, difference between the paradigm that mixed forests are more resilient, more higher adapting power, contrasting with your experiment? That I think is a very contrasting with this paradigm.
So if I got this question correct, you mean how we conclude that higher species richness leads to higher adaptation potential, right? Well, this observation comes from grasslands, as I mentioned in the introduction, and we tried to explain with this experiment or with our observations if this is applicable also to early growth stage of forests. Of course, we cannot transfer those results we observed or our observations to old growth forests. So this is just or exclusively for this early growth stage, and by now the development or height of trees is also I would say there's a separation in tree height development, so that we become size effects beside diversity effects as well. So this needs to be considered.
One last question, if someone has a question maybe for Iris, because she didn't talk yet. Yeah.
Une question pour Iris, donc je la fais en français. C'est par rapport à vous montrer l'effet des éclaircies en fait positives sur la production. Et est-ce qu'on observe par rapport aux mortalités justement, puisque c'est important pour le milieu méditerranéen avec toutes les surfaces qu'on a en chêne vert, Donc on comprend que si on éclaircit, on aura peut-être des chances d'avoir une meilleure production, meilleure croissance. Mais est-ce qu'on n'observe pas ça naturellement, avec des mortalités justement, et une éclaircie naturelle en laissant les taillis, puisque c'est du taillis chez vous, je crois, et que c'est une grande majorité des forêts là, mais dans notre secteur méditerranéen. Est-ce que naturellement, on n'observe pas justement, par les mortalités observées, de l'éclaircissement qui serait favorable au maintien du chêne vert, et du coup, on n'aurait peut-être pas besoin de management là-dessus?
So I think it's a good, it's a very good question. I think the thing is that here in the thinning experiment that was realized, they removed the smallest trees that were already very weak. So there was almost no mortality in recent years in these plots. So clearly there could be a mortality here, but I think from what we see, it's much quicker if you remove these small trees that in any case don't produce a lot of food and a lot of fruits. And it's in the end it will induce more or less the same thing, but it's much more efficient this way. The other question is it worth? But is it worth to spend so much energy in thinning these non-very productive plots? You can say the answer yes or no, but it's much quicker than natural thinning. And I think much more efficient if you strictly look at the number of fruit. The production of fruit per plot.
Okay, well, thank you very much to our speakers. I know that you have a lot of questions actually for them, so please don't hesitate to ask them during the break. We are now going to have our first break. We will start again at 11:20 because we're a bit late, so I'll just give you a bit of time to maybe grab a coffee, have a look at the posters, and we'll start again at 11:20 for the next session. Thank you very much, and thank you to our speakers.